The bright lights of the Good Morning America set shimmered off Tom Cruise's crisp navy suit as he strode onto the stage, his signature smile in place. The segment was supposed to be a lighthearted promo for his upcoming film, a mix of daring stunts, heart-thumping action, and, as always, Cruise's dedication to doing everything himself. George Stephanopoulos greeted him with polite warmth, but even viewers at home sensed something tight beneath the surface. The two exchanged pleasantries for the first few minutes, the conversation flowing about Tom's new movie and his passion for filmmaking. But then George shifted in his chair, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Tom, let me ask you, critics are raising ethical concerns about some of the behind-the-scenes treatment on your film sets. The long hours, the alleged pressure on co-stars to perform risky stunts. Do you think that's a fair criticism?" Tom's smile faltered for the briefest moment. "Look, George," he said, his voice calm but taut, "I expect the best from myself and from my team. We're telling stories that inspire people. That takes effort." George pressed on, "But when safety is involved, and when actors feel they can't say no." "They can say no," Tom interrupted, his voice louder now. "No one is forced to do anything. I lead by example." The tension spiked. You could feel it in the room. Crew members shifted nervously. Cameras rolled. George, not backing down, asked again, "So you deny that you create a culture of pressure on set?" That was it. Tom leaned forward, his expression fierce. "I deny the narrative you're trying to spin. You're sitting here questioning my integrity on national television, George. That's not journalism, that's provocation." The silence was razor sharp. George held his ground, but the atmosphere had turned radioactive. From off-camera, the segment producer gave a panicked cut signal. Tom stood up. "I don't need this. I came here to talk about a movie that thousands of people poured their souls into, and you want to play gotcha." George opened his mouth to respond, but Tom was already unhooking his mic. "We're done." The camera panned awkwardly as Cruise walked off the set, leaving Stephanopoulos stunned in his seat. Backstage, crew members exchanged wide-eyed glances. Phones buzzed, Twitter was already erupting, and in the control room, someone whispered what everyone was thinking. Did Tom Cruise just get kicked off Good Morning America? Part 2 approximately. 450 words. The aftermath was immediate and explosive. Within minutes of the live segment airing, hashtag Tom Cruise and hashtag GMA clash were trending worldwide. Clips of Tom walking off the set played on repeat across networks, social media feeds flooded with divided opinions. Some praised him for standing his ground, calling George's questioning a trap, while others accused him of having a fragile ego and dodging accountability. Back at the GMA studios, the producers held an emergency meeting. Though technically Tom had stormed off, behind the scenes, a network decision had already been made. They wouldn't be airing the second half of his interview, and the rest of the press day for the film was cancelled. Quietly, the term, kicked off, began circulating among insiders, and soon the press got wind. George, meanwhile, stood by his journalistic stance. That afternoon, he gave a brief comment outside the studio. "We ask questions. That's our job. Sometimes the answers come easy. Sometimes they walk off set." Tom, for his part, remained silent for 2 days. When he finally addressed it, it was through a surprisingly calm video posted to his social media. "I'm passionate about what I do," he said, seated in a modest studio, no PR glitz. "When people question the integrity of something my entire crew works hard on, yeah, I push back. Was it heated? Sure, but I don't regret standing up for them." He never mentioned George by name, but the quiet war between Hollywood and journalism had reignited. Talk shows debated the incident. Some insiders whispered this could affect Tom's future press access with morning programs. Others believed it would only amplify interest in the movie. The clip had already garnered millions of views. Behind closed doors, Good Morning America executives were reportedly torn. Some praised George for his tough line of questioning, others feared the loss of A-list access in the future. Studios watched closely, wondering if this was the new normal, where a single tough question could implode a PR-friendly appearance. And Tom, he returned to work like nothing had happened, filming another intense scene atop a helicopter weeks later. But everyone remembered that morning. That sharp exchange, that walk-off. The next time a guest sat across from George Stephanopoulos, the unspoken tension lingered. No one wanted to be the next one kicked off Good Morning America. Iska I prompt Nicolo our highlights main hojo amazing ho inspiring ho. 3 weeks later, the fallout from the Good Morning America clash was still simmering quietly beneath the surface of Hollywood's polished facade. While most scandals faded fast, this one had left behind a peculiar tension, not because of the walk-off itself, but because of what it represented, a growing divide between media and megastars. It wasn't just about Tom anymore. Inside the Disney-owned ABC offices in Manhattan, an internal meeting was held to review the incident, not from a public relations standpoint, but from a strategic one. Executives debated how far a morning show could go before losing trust with A-list talent. The Tom Cruise interview, despite its viral reach, had triggered a temporary cooling effect with other celebrities. Publicists grew cautious, studios began setting stricter interview terms. And yet, behind the scenes, something unexpected was brewing. One morning, Robin Roberts, one of the show's senior anchors, walked into George Stephanopoulos' office. She held a folder in one hand, a look of quiet concern on her face. "You know what this is?" she asked, dropping the folder on his desk. George opened it slowly. Inside were memos, email threads, and notes from several guests over the past year, all hinting at tension with the show's approach to tough questioning. What alarmed him wasn't just the volume. It was the tone. There was a pattern of frustration building. The Cruise moment had only ignited what had been smoldering for months. "I've got no regrets about the questions I asked," George said firmly. "But maybe the way it played out. I don't know. Maybe we underestimated how fragile the room was. Robin nodded. We're journalists, yes, but morning TV isn't cable news. It's Breakfast with America. There's a balance. Meanwhile, across the country in Los Angeles, Tom Cruise sat down with his longtime producer and agent in a private meeting. For a man known for controlling his narrative down to the frame, this incident had been a rare crack in the armor. Yet Tom was nothing if not strategic. George didn't ask anything out of bounds, his agent admitted. But you walked right into their frame, Tom. You gave them a moment, and you know they live for moments. Tom leaned back, eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Next time, we control the setting. No more, live, unless there's a safety net. You planning to do another big interview? He nodded slowly. Yeah, but it'll be on my terms. And so, as rumors of reconciliation swirled, negotiations began behind closed doors. Tom's team reached out to GMA not with demands, but with a proposal. A follow-up segment, live or taped, with a different anchor, someone neutral. No apology, no rehashing, just a discussion about the film, the crew, and what it means to be a leader under pressure. The offer surprised ABC execs. Some saw it as a redemption arc. Others called it a brilliant PR move. In truth, it was both. Weeks later, the stage was set again, this time calmer, pre-recorded, and hosted by Michael Strahan. The tone was warm, respectful, and carefully steered toward the value of teamwork, filmmaking, and resilience. There was no mention of George, no echo of the earlier clash. But what stood out was the closing moment. Michael asked, Tom, what would you say to people who saw what happened and questioned your reaction? Tom smiled slightly, the edges of tension still present. I'd say emotions run high when you care. I care a lot, maybe too much sometimes. But if standing up for my team cost me a smooth interview, I'd do it again. It wasn't an apology, but it wasn't defiance, either. It was Tom Cruise, unshaken, aware, and still very much in control. And just like that, the moment passed. The interview aired, the movie premiered to huge numbers. The headlines moved on, but both men, Tom and George, had changed. Just a little. In morning TV, it would never feel quite as safe again.